Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this week's episode of The Numbers. Philippe, we are both in different locations than we were last time. How are you doing and where are you?
It's good to see you, Eric. Thank you. Listen, I'm in Quebec City, beautiful Quebec City, and behind me, those ugly drapes that you see, right there is the National Assembly. Like, I have the most beautiful view, but the sun has come out, and it made it impossible with the lighting to see it. So please believe me, I'm in Quebec City with the National Assembly right there behind me. How about you, Eric? You are back to your old stomping ground of Ottawa, is that correct?
That's right. I'm back in the center of the political universe in Ottawa and ready for the fall. It's always a bit of a transition to come back and, well, at least this time, I should say. And, it's going to be an interesting fall. So, I mean, if you got to be somewhere, I guess Ottawa's the place to be when it comes to politics. And Quebec City. I mean, that's going to be a pretty busy place for the next year. So we're going to get into some of the topics this week, and I thought that we would start with that NDP leadership race, which has actually officially kicked off this week. And we don't have our first official candidates or candidates that have been recognized by the party. There's a few more marginal figures that have said they're going to run, but it's going to be up to the NDP in the end. But the two that I think that will be some serious contenders and that we have some reports that they're preparing a run is Heather McPherson, the MP for Edmonton Strathcona, and Avi Lewis, who is part of the Lewis family of NDP political figures. His father was the leader of the Ontario NDP for much of the 1970s, and his grandfather was the leader of the federal NDP, David Lewis, also in the 1970s. So what do we think about how this NDP leadership race is starting to unfold?
Well, I'm not sure if this is going to be the only two candidates, like officially, as you said, more, I don't want to say marginal, that's not the right word, but lesser known people were interested by this job. But if it is a race between these two, the outcome will really redefine what the NDP of the 2020s, let's just say, is going to become. Because those are really different choices, it seems. Am I wrong about this, Eric?
No, and we see from the reporting that came out in the Star that it was, a little bit of a discussion of what kind of approach they would take. Heather McPherson, is a Western Canadian New Democrat, talks about trying to broaden the tent, trying to follow in the footsteps of a lot of those Western Canadian New Democrats who have formed government in now all four Western provinces. And, you could look at David Eby in British Columbia, who might be a little bit more of the traditional New Democrat, let's say that, in terms of being a little bit more center-left and centrist. But then you have Kinew in Manitoba, who is certainly more on the centrist side of the NDP spectrum. And you could say the same thing for New Democrats in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So that's the approach that she is taking. I did notice, I don't know if you saw it, she had a little video where she was speaking French.
En français,
yes,
oui.
Which is the telltale sign of wanting to run for leadership of a federal party. And then Avi Lewis, who is going to be much more of a kind of a populist left, a grassroots kind of left, and activist left. Yeah, he was the co-author of that LEAP manifesto that contributed to Thomas Mulcair getting defeated in that leadership vote back in 2016. So it is, those two will provide the different paths forward. Will they be the only ones occupying those lanes? I think is going to be the question here. Because if they're the only two major candidates, and it doesn't seem like that'll be the case, some people are saying there'll be more interesting names, then it could be, a choice between two different paths forward. But if you have a number of candidates occupying some of these paths, then it could become a little bit more complicated to figure out which way the party's going to go.
Here, I know we don't speculate much on this podcast. We stick to the numbers. Obviously, we do not have numbers on this. It is way too early. But let's say it is a race between these two. Who would you say is the favorite? Because the first reaction, the knee-jerk reaction would be, one is an MP, an experienced MP, bilingual, and has won her riding handily, even though, it's a safe riding, but still. She weathered the Carney storm for the NDP. Many NDPers didn't. But since this is a one-member, one vote, not weighted by region, the outcome can always be very surprising. Would you say that McPherson should be seen as the favorite?
The thing is, there's the fact that members of the provincial parties are also members and eligible to vote for the federal leadership race. And which parties have the biggest memberships right now? Well, the NDP in Alberta just had a leadership race won by Nad Nenshi. The BC New Democrats form a government. The Manitoba one, New Democrats do. Saskatchewan, they got pretty close to that last election. The Ontario NDP would have a significant amount of members as well, but then east of that, really not much to speak of in terms of an NDP membership. So if you think about that, where are all the members going to be? A lot of them are going to be in Western Canada, probably disproportionate to the population. Ontario might end up still having the most. But you got to think that that is going to help more of a pragmatic New Democrat. Now, Avi Lewis ran in BC. I guess that's where his base is. But I think he's going to have much more of appeal among maybe urban centers in Eastern Canada as well. But that's what makes these kinds of races very hard to predict, is that it will come down to who can sell the most memberships in the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And chances are we will have very little numbers and polling on this for the simple reason that, when we have federal polls that are breaking down, you see the party breakdown, well, the NDP had 6% of the votes, so it's a small sample. Like if you have a poll of 1,000 people, that's 60 people that voted for the NDP on average. And then you have to break this down and ask, okay, who would you, prefer in that race? So we will follow with interest, obviously. Balance of power in the House of Commons still. I mean, the Bloc Québécois has more seats, but the NDP still has the balance of power, technically. And it will matter a whole lot. It's just that it's a tough time to be a New Democrat at the federal scene right now. And I wonder how many people, like really serious people of quality, will want that job. To be continued. Very interesting.
Yeah, before we move on from it, one question that I hear a lot of people talk about how Mark Carney has brought the Liberals to the center, which leaves a bit of a vacuum on the left that could be occupied, especially by a more progressive New Democrat than a centrist New Democrat. What do you make of this argument? Because that is the contrast between kind of taking more of a leftist, a left-wing position to try to occupy that space that's being vacated by the Liberals, versus the being more of a centrist, broader tent to try to win an election in terms of getting more support overall. I'm not sure what is the correct path for the party, because the fact, the Liberals have evacuated a lot of that left-wing space, but they haven't lost those voters yet.
Not yet. And we know that I don't want to say it's a ticking time bomb, that's too strong, but there's a risk eventually for Carney to lose voters on his left flank. Now, that left flank may be unguarded right now. And the NDP, as you said, this is a way of, basically, your question is a long way of saying, do they want to win or do they want to be the conscience of Parliament forever? And there are voters that I spoke to in conventions that want to be the conscience of Parliament. They prefer to push agenda from the outskirts than to drive it maybe in the House of Commons. And others say, well, it'd be nice to win one day, right? But they're so far away from the conversation nationally right now. So they have an opportunity to reshape the party, but they also have an opportunity to go, I was asked this morning by a journalist in Ottawa, is the NDP going further left than Québec Solidaire, right? In Quebec, which is pretty left compared, in the spectrum of Canadian politics, Québec Solidaire is out there. And they could choose that path. It's just that it will not make them competitive for power, in the short term at least.
Right. But if the first set of goals is to get back to 12 seats, maybe giving people a reason to vote for the NDP versus the Liberals, rather than just being a party that's like the Liberals, but maybe you can feel better about voting for them if you're on the left side of the spectrum. I mean, that's a choice, right?
There's room on the left. There's definitely room. Yeah,
there is room on the left, but You look at some of the other New Democrats across the country, and we're going to segue a little bit into some provincial stuff here, but I wanted to keep it together as one kind of thing. Is that you have, David Eby in British Columbia and the New Democrats, seemingly from what the polls we've seen, still doing okay, and David Eby still, relatively popular in the province. But then you have Wab Kinew in Manitoba, who every time we get that Angus Reid Institute most popular premier poll, it seems his approval rating keeps going up. So, he's now 2 years out from an election and still maintaining those numbers. And then we had the results in the Spruce Woods by-election last week. So this was a riding that it surrounds the city of Brandon. So it includes some like suburbs of Brandon and some small towns, but we're still really talking about a predominantly rural and small town riding, right? Yeah. The PCs won this by a huge margin in the last election, but the New Democrats nearly won this seat. The PCs took 47% of the vote. That was down 15 points. The NDP won 46%. They were up 22 points, and the Liberals took 7%. So you got a swing here of about 37 points. I applied this to like all the rural ridings in Manitoba from the last election. There would only be about 9 seats left for the PCs.
Wow.
So you have an example here of a New Democrat who was almost able to win a safe PC rural riding. He's definitely providing a different example of a path that the New Democrats could take. He was on Les Coulisses du Pouvoir recently and was asked, what lessons would you give to, what advice would you give to the federal NDP? And he said in French, more wallet, less wokeness.
Yeah.
You wonder what kind of role that's going to play. I mean, this convention is taking place in Winnipeg.
You have to think also that this line from Monsieur Kinew was prepared. Like, you don't improvise that line. This is a really catchy line. We're talking about it. It's been talked about, and it's a debate. As we just said, does the NDP want to go back to talking to what the median voter is talking about cost of living and such, or identity issues? I don't want to say the wokeness because it's been overused so much, but like people know what we mean here. Redefining the party from the outskirts. This is again an opportunity for the NDP to grow its base or to completely become marginal. It's a big risk. Monsieur Kinew right now must look at the federal NDP. I think you mentioned that last week. Would you be interested in joining the federal NDP? He's like, well, why would he, right? He's doing so well in Manitoba. Like I just said, so there would be 10 seats left in your swing model for non-NDP parties?
I think it was, I think that's right.
So almost 50 seats for the Manitoba NDP?
Yeah, I think it was 47 or 49.
Wow. That's halfway through the mandate, too. He was elected in September in 23, so that's very impressive.
And I was just saying that Kinew was on Les Coulisses du Pouvoir. That is obviously a Radio-Canada show. He speaks French. You can almost imagine a longer-term vision for Wab Kinew that if he wants to, maybe he does a few terms in Manitoba and then takes a run at the federal leadership. So having a kind of in-between leader that can kind of get the party back into a position where it has some strength, where it has some resources, where it can fight some elections. And then, you open it up to someone else. I mean, that's a long-term strategy. I'm sure whoever will win the NDP leadership race would like to remain leader for as long as possible. They don't want to keep the seat warm for someone else. But we'll keep an eye on this. And just that Spruce Woods results. I mean, Kinew said he was gunning for that riding. He said he wanted to be competitive everywhere in the province. It sounded like bluster. It sounded like braggadocio. But boy, 70 votes short of winning a seat. The PC's won by what, like 40 points?
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
And anyway, we'll keep an eye on this NDP leadership race once we get some official candidates in the running. Let's talk about some federal stuff. Some other broader federal stuff. Last week we spent a lot of time talking about that Abacus poll. We haven't had any other major polling that's come out in the last week, but we did get the latest iteration of the Nanos poll. If we were waiting for some corroboration, I think we're still waiting for it.
We're still waiting for it. So 11-point lead for the Liberals. This is a sample that stretches from most of August. It's August 8th to August 29th. So half of it was fielded after Abacus, basically. And what's most interesting, again, following the tracker, is the preferred PM tracker. I noticed there was a little mistake in the email. The newsletter sent by Nanos, it still had the previous week's numbers. So the numbers from the report, 51% of respondents choose Mark Carney as their preferred PM. 27 chose Poilievre. This is a 24-point lead. It's still massive. If we compare that to the previous 4-week sample, Carney is at 51, so no change. And Poilievre was at 24, so plus 3. Marginal movement considering the margin of error. So this is still the summer of Carney. Summer is coming to an end officially and also politically. Now, again, when the House opens, when the House returns, I'm looking to see if that Poilievre number moved, because most of the number we saw since the election, the Poilievre number going down, they didn't go to Carney. They went to I don't know. They went to undecideds. So you could see maybe disaffected, disappointed conservative voters pulling their support for Poilievre temporarily. It could come back in the fall, so keep an eye on that.
Something else we might have as a fall event could be a couple more by-elections. As of this morning, the Globe and Mail was reporting that, and we've heard some whispers of this before, but now we actually have some names and some places. But Globe and Mail reporting that Bill Blair is being considered to be the High Commissioner to the UK to replace Ralph Goodale, and that Jonathan Wilkinson could become the ambassador of Belgium or Germany or somewhere in Europe. So these are two, they used to be heavy-hitting cabinet ministers in the Trudeau government, and they were left out of the cabinet this time, so it kind of makes sense that maybe they just plan to put them somewhere else. I'm not sure how happy they are about all of this arrangement. But if we do see postings, diplomatic postings for Bill Blair and Jonathan Wilkinson, that means by-elections in Scarborough Southwest, which was Bill Blair's riding, and North Vancouver Capilano for Jonathan Wilkinson. Now, if you're a 2024, you're a Liberal, you're going to flinch when I say this, but these are safe Liberal seats. So you wonder if they might be opportunities for Mark Carney to put in some people that he actually wants to have maybe added to his team that maybe weren't ready to take a risk back in April and put their names forward.
I would say between the two, Rick, that Scarborough Southwest should be the safer one. Like, it would be very surprising to see the Liberals lose that. North Vancouver Capilano, we saw the numbers completely flip in British Columbia pre-election and during the campaign. This seat was not going to the Liberals during the campaign, whereas I think Scarborough still has a base of Liberal voters that is a bit stronger, and also provincially the OLP does okay there. You and I love by-elections. It would be fun, especially to have two on the same night, to be continued, and also it's pretty good jobs, right? High Commissioner to the UK or Ambassador to Belgium. That's pretty nice.
Hey, nice work if you can get it. Wanted to talk as well about some Ontario polling numbers.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Ontario just had an election 7 months ago, so it doesn't really matter too much. I don't think Doug Ford's going to call an election anytime soon.
Yeah.
So we do have now a good old-fashioned polling discrepancy, which is sort of the bedrock of this podcast. So we got Abacus data, which had the Ontario PCs at 53%, the Liberals at 27%, the NDP at 12%. And then we had a poll from Liaison Strategies, which we hadn't heard from over the summer, but they did post as well their tracking that they've been doing, I guess, in their omnibus or whatever it would be anyway. And they showed pretty consistent numbers. And the latest ones were 44 for the PCs, 35 for the Liberals, and 15 for the NDP. Now, I looked at that 53 number for the Ontario PCs. I had to go back to, I think it was just after Dalton McGuinty's win in 2003 to find any party with that much support in a poll in Ontario. So it's a big number.
It's a big number.
And then you get the one from Liaison Strategies, which is still a big number. They're up by 9 points. They have more support than they had in the last election, but it's not 53%. What do you make of this?
I make of this that sometimes, again, you and I rarely go, oh, this pollster is wrong, because that's not how it works, right? To say something like that, to state something so stark, we would have to have lots of evidence, hard-nosed evidence to say this. But it is also fair to say that Abacus posted this Ontario these Ontario numbers the same week as they posted the best poll for the federal Conservatives of all the summer, right? And so perhaps there's a lean there, and we're not saying a house effect. We don't say that Abacus is wrong, but right now they're the only one to have the Conservatives federally and the PCs provincially so high. So what's interesting also with the Abacus numbers, that the OLP has not moved that much, right? They had 29% in the election, 27 in this poll. We see that Liaison has the OLP a bit higher, which is interesting. We'll see with the OLP convention coming this month. So the PC increase, according to Abacus, would come from NDP voters, which is plausible because we saw that at the federal level as well, especially in southwestern Ontario, where the NDP used to be competitive in many places. What do you make of this, Eric?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you see Doug Ford. We just obviously this was before, after the polling was done, but he was at some bottling plant pouring out a bottle of Crown Royal. Clearly making a play for those kinds of voters, right? Those working class voters, unionized voters, like the people he was standing behind him were, there was part of the unionized working force there that worked in the bottling plant. So there definitely is that path there, that approach that the Doug Ford PCs have used in the past, and it's worked very well. Because even in the liaison poll, the OLP is higher than they were in the last election. So for the PCs to be a few points higher up, it does need to come from the NDP. That is one of the places where there isn't a discrepancy between these two polls. You got 15 for the NDP for liaison, 12 for Abacus. So the NDP has taken a step back. So we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on here. It does kind of impact the narrative, though, because Abacus has more or less a trend line that's increasing for Doug Ford, and that he's becoming more popular. And then you have Liaison, which has shown that they're kind of just holding flat, maybe even going down a little bit. I'm curious to see what the next Angus Reid Institute quarterly approval ratings poll will be if we see a higher number for Doug Ford. Because it seems like he and his party are riding a kind of a... it's like
the Trump wave, right?
Yeah, it's like they're tapped into the zeitgeist a little bit on how people want their political leaders to approach Donald Trump. So, very curious to see if those numbers will continue to be as glittering for Doug Ford. Because you know what? One of the other side stories about all this is the Doug Ford versus Pierre Poilievre kind of internal battle, right? And if Doug Ford's numbers start to go down, then his ability to play that role starts to diminish as well, because people wouldn't really pay attention to him if he was one of the most unpopular premiers in the country.
That's right. Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just that maybe that I just feel like it's been overdone. That Monsieur Ford would want to replace Poilievre. I mean, it's third consecutive majority at Queen's Park. See, his numbers are still good. It's been overdone. But in Ontario, this fall, it's not the PCs we'll be looking at. Right, we'll have the OLP convention. We mentioned it. Ms. Crombie will have a vote of confidence, and also Marit Stiles will have to face her members later this fall. So it's the opposition parties that we will look at, and that's going to be, again, that could reshape how things are going at Queen's Park, because right now the PCs are on cruise control.
Yes, and if Bonnie Crombie's leadership becomes up for grabs, hey, maybe we'll have some more federal MPs deciding to take a run at it, and even more by-elections. So good news for us. I wanted to make one correction that I made a mistake last week.
Yes.
I said there was no pension at Queen's Park. There was no pension at Queen's Park. The Ford PC government reintroduced pensions for MPPs, but it just was earlier this year. So the topic at the time was whether Mike Schreiner would want to run somewhere else or resign to give Philippe a clean sweep of his leader resignation draft.
Don't get
that he could take his
here.
pension. He wouldn't have one because the pension is just being instituted. But there is now a pension at Queen's Park for MPPs. There wasn't before that. It came out. It was removed, I believe, in the Mike Harris years, and Doug Ford has brought it back for the MPP. So a little correction. We're gonna keep ourselves accountable on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Okay, last week you had a humdinger of a quiz. It was like a fun trivia quiz, which I
that
love.
you
I love
that
trivia
you
quizzes.
crushed. That you crushed. For those who didn't listen to it, I had 10 trivia questions. I don't think and some of them were softballs, but not all of them. And Eric had 10 correct answers out of 10.
And even
And
corrected
so,
you on one of them. So
yeah, that's right. It's right. I had the wrong answer in my. So I decided. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and have a quiz that maybe is a notch or two more difficult. But it's again 10 trivia questions. I will encourage our viewers and listeners to participate alone. So I will not give you the right answers right away. But 10 questions are for you, Eric, for this week's quiz. So let's go if you are ready, my friend.
I am ready, sir.
Okay. Number 1. Eric, how many provinces have never had a woman premier, and which are they?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So BC has had Rita Johnston. She was the first one. Alberta has had Rachel Notley. Saskatchewan has never had a female premier. So that's one. Manitoba had Heather Stephenson. Ontario had Kathleen Wynne. I might end up forgetting someone. I'm just thinking of at least one.
Yeah.
Quebec had Pauline Marois. New Brunswick now has Susan Holt. Nova Scotia didn't have any. PI had Catherine Colbeck, who was the first to win an election as a
90s,
woman
right?
party leader. And Newfoundland Labrador has had Kathy Dunderdale. So I guess there's just two, Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia.
Okay. Punch that in. Very good. Number 2, Eric. How many Quebec premiers overlapped with the BC premiership of Christy Clark? How many Quebec premiers overlap with the BC premiership of Christy Clark?
Okay.
And who are they?
Okay, well, Christy Clark came in 2010, I believe, or 2010 and 2011. And then she went out in 2017. So that means there was Jean Charest, there was Pauline Marois, there was Philippe Couillard, and there was that's it. So there would be those three.
Final answer?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Sometimes when I know the answer, I feel like I must be missing something because I feel like you're trying to trip me up.
Number 3, Eric. As you know, only 6 political parties have ever won elections in Alberta since becoming a province in 1905. Also, no governing party that lost an election ever returned to power, which is amazing when you think about it, right? I want you to name, in decreasing order, the 3 parties with the longest reigns over the Alberta Legislative Assembly. So longest, second longest, third longest.
Okay. The longest would be the PCs, who were in from 1971 to 2015. So that was 44 years. The second would be Social Credit, which was in from 1935 to 1971. So that was 36 years. And then the third one... Okay, well, the NDP was only in for 4. The UCP has only been in for now for 6. The Liberals were in from 05 to 21, so that was 16. So the United Farmers were from 21 to 35. So it'd be the Liberals. 16 years.
Very well. Final answer?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Number 4, Eric. Since the end of World War II, these provinces have never elected minority governments. What are they?
Alberta.
Never elected minority governments.
Alberta, Newfoundland, Labrador.
Okay. Well, you seem pretty confident about this. Number 5.
I don't like your comments, sir. Keep them to yourself.
Also, by the way, for those who notice, I'm trying to take questions from all around the country, right? I'm trying to go around. So here we go. Number 5. 1952 British Columbia election saw a major shift in the political landscape of the province with the victory of the Social Credit and the eventual so-called leader and premier, W.A.C. Bennett. I say eventual because he was not leader during the campaign. So in this 1952 BC election, 5 different parties won at least a seat. Aside from the Socreds, what are the other 4?
Well, there was the CCF, the Liberals, and the Conservatives. Oh, who was that 5th?
I do not count independents, by the way.
Okay.
Parties.
Oh, I feel like I actually know that. Oh, it was the 5th in 1952. I think it was. I'm going to say it was like a veterans party.
Okay. All right. Next, number 6. You're doing well, my friend. Number 6. In the 1968 federal election, the Pierre Trudeau-led Liberals won a majority government. In how many provinces did the Liberals win the popular vote? And which are they?
Jeez. Okay.
In how many provinces, not counting the territories here, sorry. In how many provinces did the Liberals win the popular vote? And which are they?
All right. Well,
It had to be tougher a little bit for you, okay?
All right. Stanfield was new, and he was popular in Atlantic Canada, so I'm not sure if they won any in Atlantic Canada. They would have won Quebec. They would have won Ontario. I'm not sure if the NDP would have won like Saskatchewan or something like that. PCs would have still won in Alberta. I'm going to say it was BC, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec.
So 4.
4.
And those 4. Okay. Very well. Punch that in. Okay, number 7. As of today, Eric, which Quebec premier has the most recent year of birth? And I'm not asking you for the year because that would be unfair, but which Quebec premier has the most recent year of birth?
Who would be younger? Would it be... Okay, wait. So you got Legault. Is Criard younger than Legault? I think he might be. So I think it could be Criard. Is Marois... I think Marois might be older than Criard. And Charest, Landry, no. So I'm gonna guess it was Philippe Criard.
Okay, punch that in. Very well.
I'm not as confident about this one as the last one.
Okay, number 8, Eric. I went through the whole list of Ontario premiers. How many Ontario premiers were MPPs or MLAs before 1938 of an Ottawa or Ottawa adjacent riding, and who are they?
What was the thing about 1938?
Well, they stopped calling themselves MLAs. And
okay. You're saying just any of them who are from the Ottawa area.
Yeah, that's right.
How many? Okay, this is Dalton McGuinty, who certainly won. Harris wasn't, Eves wasn't, Wynne wasn't, Ford wasn't, or isn't.
Oof.
Davis wasn't, Miller wasn't, Peterson wasn't, Ray wasn't. I'm trying to think of who was. Or there was George Drew was. So Drew, McGuinty, and there might be another one, but I can't think of them. So I'm going to say it was Drew and McGuinty.
Okay.
That's tough.
Very well.
Tough this time.
It is tough. Well, I mean, you know, 10 out of 10, that's what you get, right? So, all right. Number 9. How many elections? Hang on. Did I miss? Okay. How many elections did the BC NDP win in the 20th century? And which are they? With what leader?
They won in 1972 for Dave Barrett. They won in 1991 under Mike Harcourt. And then they won in 1996 under Glenn Clark. I think that's it.
Is that it? Final answer?
Yes.
Okay. Number 10. We were talking about Mr. Kinew here, halfway through his first mandate. Number 10, Eric, how many Manitoba NDP premiers have won consecutive majorities? And who are they?
Okay. Selinger didn't. Gary Dewar certainly did. I'm not. I think both Howard Pauley and Ed Schreier won consecutive, so I'm going to say those three.
I'm sorry, can we repeat that? Gary
Ed
Dewar,
Schreier, Howard Pauley, and Gary Dewar.
Okay, we are done here. I just want to check a little thing before I go through the answers with you, because again, you make me doubt. Okay, all right. So you have 5 wrong answers.
Oh my goodness!
That's right. So, half of them are right. Half of them are either wrong or incomplete. Number 1, how many provinces have never had a woman premier? You said Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia. You want to keep that?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, you said that Jean Charest...
You know what? I'm not going to switch anything. I'm not going to switch anything. So
You're not going to switch anything.
No, I'm not going to second guess myself. Why don't you just tell me if I got what I got right or wrong?
Well, okay, then let me give you the bonus question because 5 is shame, 6 is gold. So
6 is gold. I'll take. Okay.
No. So 6 is bronze.
Okay.
So just a chance for you to medal because otherwise it's shame. Oh, that's tough. Bonus question, Eric. As of today, who is the last Liberal elected to the Alberta legislature?
This is David Swan.
In what riding?
Oh, come on. He was in Calgary.
He was in Calgary, yeah. So you get the bonus point. You get 6. Okay. So Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia are the only provinces who never had a woman premier. No, so that's right. And you were correct. Jean Charest, Pauline Marois, and Philippe Couillard were the 3 Quebec premiers whose premiership overlapped with Christy Clark. You gave me the 3 longest reigns in the Alberta legislature. As you said, PC's 44 years, Social Credit 36 years, and the first party to rule Alberta was the Alberta Liberal Party, 16 years. You were correct. Since the end of World War II, these provinces have never elected minority governments. What are they? You said Alberta and Newfoundland. Well, Newfoundland had won by 1 seat in 1971.
That's right.
1971. But you're right. Alberta, I said since the end of World War II, just to throw you off, Alberta has never had a minority government ever so far.
Newfoundland. I should have got that. Ugh.
Okay, 1952 British Columbia elections. Which party won at least a seat? The Socreds, of course. The Cooperative Commonwealth. What is the F? Federation?
Federation.
Okay. The Liberal. You said the Conservatives. It was the Progressive Conservatives, but that's good. That's good.
Right,
You're missing one. You're missing one. It was 1 seat by Labour.
Labour. I figured by then Labour would have been, folded into the CCF, but okay.
They were winning. Yeah, they were on their way down. 1968 federal election. Pierre Trudeau won a majority. He won the
I got that one wrong. I got that one wrong.
He won the popular vote in 4 provinces: Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, and BC. So you got it right.
Oh, I did get it right. Oh, boy.
You did get it right.
Okay.
Surprisingly, Trudeau lost the popular vote and the seat count in all 4 Atlantic provinces because, of course, the PC leader was very popular. As of today, which Quebec premier has the most recent year of birth? Jean Charest in 1958.
Really?
Which blew me away because I know it's talk, especially down in the States, on how leaders are old, right? And Jean Charest is still the youngest premier, ever. Well, not the youngest during his reign, of course, but so we never had in Quebec, we're in 2025, and we never had a premier born in the 60s. Or 70s. So we'll see how it's changed. How many Ontario premiers were MPPs or MLAs of an Ottawa or Ottawa adjacent riding? You said Dalton McGuinty and George Drew. McGuinty is correct, but George Drew had a seat in High Park. That's in Toronto. So it's only McGuinty in the whole list. So you were close, but
Why did I think
that's
George
still
Drew?
is.
Maybe he ran for federal.
Did he? At some point, maybe. Yeah, we'll have to double check that. How many elections did the BC NDP win in the 20th century, and under which leader? You said 1972, Dave Barrett, which is correct. 1991, Mike Harcourt. That's correct too. And 1996, Glenn Clark. And after that election, it didn't go so well.
Yeah,
But they came back.
Oof,
so you got that right. Number 10, how many Manitoba NDP premiers won consecutive majorities? Howard Parley did it in 81 and 86. Gary Dewar, you remember, increasing in size every election. He won 3 in a row. And that's it.
Oh, Schreier
That's
didn't.
it. Schreier didn't. He had a minority in 69 and then a majority in 73. But when I read on Edward Schreier, I really wanted to have a question about him, but it was too late. The question was, name this person, an MLA, then an MP, then an MLA again, then Premier, then Governor General, which is all kinds of incredible. But anyway. And the bonus question, David Swan in Calgary Mountain View was and still is the last Liberal elected leader of the Alberta legislature. Because of David Swan, my friend, you medal and you're out of shame. But congratulations, this was a tough quiz and you did very well.
That was a very tough one. And if you're watching, listening, let us know how you did. If any of you beat me, then my caps off to you. How about the number of the week? Let me go. None came to me as I was looking at things, but I'll pick one up from what you said earlier today, that the gap between Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre in the best preferred prime minister question in the Nanos Research Poll is 24 points. That is the number I'm most interested in seeing how that changes over the next few months. The voting intention ones are always going to flip around. People are going to stick with their party brand. They're going to stick with their team for a while. But when it comes down to that choice between Carney and Poilievre, because the NDP doesn't have a permanent leader yet, so people aren't really considering that person likely as prime minister. Elizabeth May is on her way out. The Bloc leader is obviously never going to become prime minister. So it's really about that gap between Carney and Poilievre. And if it still is 20 plus points by the time we get to January, I don't think Poilievre is going to lose his leadership review or anything like that. But you do wonder if they start to worry about getting a number that is closer to 80 than it is to 90. But that is my number of the week, that 24-point gap. I think that is the biggest challenge, the biggest hurdle that Pierre Poilievre faces over the next few months.
You know what, Eric, I agree. And if I can just add to that, we remember fringes during the campaign that were holding these signs. Do you believe the polls, right? These are minorities. And I know many in the conservative movement and conservative party, they look at the polls and they wonder if in January, if it hasn't gotten better for Poilievre. It was argued that the fact that the convention is in Calgary is an advantage for Poilievre. I'm not that sure about that. They expect winners over there. I'm not sure they would just vote for him because they like him. They want to win eventually. So good point. My number is a future number. It's not a past number. Well, I know that there will be Quebec polls in this month. And I mentioned Quebec because we saw Monsieur Legault, Quebec Premier, in front of the public inquiry on the overcost of systems, système informatique in Quebec. It's a big story here, but 17% was the last poll for the CAQ, which would be absolutely devastating in the ballot box in a year from now, if it happens. So I'm going to look forward to see if it moves. Monsieur Legault did okay, according to many pundits, did okay in the public inquiry questioning, but it hurts credibility when you are under oath and questioned in front of a judge. So that 17%, if it's lower, maybe the CEQ themselves will want to have a few thoughts about maybe changing leaders.
The CEQ is in for a couple rollicking months, I think. Cabinet shuffle. Geneviève Guilbeault was the deputy premier, reportedly not going to lose that title, and she was kind of thrown under the bus with some of these testimonies. You wonder if there's going to be some sort of internal explosion in that party and what that's going to cause. So Going to
Yep.
be interesting. So maybe you should stick around in Quebec City because you're going to be right there. All right, so that'll be it for this week's episode of The Numbers. We are doing a mailbag episode this week. So if you are already a member of the Patreon, make sure you get your questions in before tomorrow morning. If you're not a member, you can join us to listen to that episode. You also get early access to our public episodes, and also they're ad-free for our Patreon members. So that is at thenumberspod.ca. All right, Philippe, well, safe travels back to Montreal. And we're going to talk later this week. And then next week, we'll see what new numbers are in store for us to chat about.
Absolutely. Merci beaucoup, Eric. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. Have a great week.